Hi guys, in this video we'll talk about basic types in TypeScript. Well, this is gonna be something familiar to you because we will talk about most of the stuff from the JavaScript. Plus there are gonna be additional types that's specific only for TypeScript. So let's first define how can we actually set a type for a variable. Let's say we have a variable x, and this variable should be a number. So we should set a type after the column. So we set a column, and after the column, we can actually define a type. In this case, this is a number. In the next example, we see a function, an arrow function sum, which takes two numbers as an argument, a and b, and it returns a new number, which is a sum of these two numbers. So in order to define a types for the function argument, it's similar how I just told you. We do this after the column. We can define and set a type. And also, in order to set a type for what function should return after the round brackets, we can kind of define after the column the type that the function should return. In this case, this is also a number. Okay, so let's first talk about string. Yeah, this is pretty similar to what we have in TypeScript. It's just a text, it's just a string. The next one is number, so we can define a number similar to what we have in JavaScript. After the column, we can say string, number, our basic, already known type from JavaScript, similar to TypeScript. Boolean, just to remind you, this is the data type that can have only two values, true or false. Array. So an array in a classic sense is going to be a sequence of the data of the same type. So we can say array of numbers, array of string, etc. So tuple is something that is it's known from many languages, and you probably know that the founder, I would say creator of the TypeScript, he's kind of expert in the C#. So he brought this idea to TypeScript by having a tuple. And tuple, this is the definition of tuple. Considered like a finite sequence of data types that can be different. So by comparison, we were talking about arrays that can be a sequence of data of the same type. However, tuple can have a sequence of values of different types. And this is pretty useful. In this case, we define a tuple which is only two elements. The first one should be a string, and the second one is a number. So this is an example of the data that's going to fit to this type. So the first one, the string success, the second one, number 25. However, if we will switch the position of this element, is not going to work. TypeScript will throw an error. And if we will completely mess up this with different types, like the first value is Boolean, the second one is number, is not going to work either. And this is pretty useful when we want to return a value from a function, which can be like different values, like string and number, or and it's not it could be more than two elements. So in this example, we have only two values, string and number, but we can have any number of elements, but they should be finite. So the next data type is enum, and this is kind of also new, and the idea is that we can basically define like kind of a dictionary or definition of the possible values of the group, like a set or subset. So in this case, we have a color enum, and we can have red, green, blue as a matching data for the color. However, if we will check and do a console log, we would see that the color.green is gonna be 1 is going to be integer, because by default it's going to be enumeration starting from 0. So the red value is going to be 0, green 1, and blue is 2. The same thing as indexes of the array. But we can redefine the values, like internal values, for the enumeration type, for enum type. So this is like the example from the real project. Let's say we have API response, like the status of API, and we can create an enum for this data type, specifically for this API status, and we can define that success should be matched to this string value. Like this is the success, the actual return from the API status, and the failed, this is going to be also the matching string type for this API. And if we're gonna use this in our project, we can kind of make abstraction, and it's going to be easy and reusable across the project. So and it's also worth to mention that, like on the line, we see that we define the variable let response status API status, and we can assign only values from the enum API status. It's not possible to assign just a string like success. It's gonna be it's wrong to assign even the exact string to response status. We should assign only the value from the enum. I will provide more examples when we switch to the editor. The next data type is unknown, and this is something that we actually it's not possible to predict what the user can type. Let's say if we would deal with the input from the user, or we have like different aggregation of different APIs, and it's really difficult to predict what is going to be the data type. In that case, we can say, okay, this is the unknown. It's not a bug, we just don't know what is the value is going to be. And like this is a silly example. We have a variable not sure and this type unknown, and we can assign whatever we want, like 4, or maybe a string instead, or false. So this is the unknown type, and it's really important to distinguish unknown between any. So any is a data type that used to disable types completely. This is really bad practice. However, in certain circumstances, it's really neat to be used. For example, in the legacy JS code, when we do not have time to go there to the legacy code and set a type, we do not have capacity in our team or in our project, and in that case it's just easier and much faster to just set any type temporary. It doesn't mean that it's unknown. It's pretty much known. It just we forcefully say that we want to disable type checking. It's going to be any type. Like in this example, if we have the old function from the legacy code set name, it accepts an argument name, and it returns, this function returns any. So this function can return any value. And what is the difference between the unknown and any? So okay, so this is the next example. Let's say we have an object type any, and inside of this object we have only property x. But here on the next line we can successfully call the foo function, and the foo property is gonna be it's not actually in this object. But however, TypeScript is now gonna throw an error because we say, okay, it's gonna be any. So it could be anything inside of this object. However, during the runtime, of course, we would have an error because the foo is undefined, and it's not possible to call a function on undefined. The same one was bar. We can assign anything to the bar. Bar is not even inside of this object. However, we can call it and assign a number. So the next data type is void. So it is used when function returns nothing. So there's nothing to return from a function. And this is the perfect example of the class set method. So set method, it just sets an internal property of the instance of this class, name in this case, right? But it doesn't return anything. In that case, even by definition, by assumption, TypeScript is going to show the resolution for this return type as void, because it doesn't return anything. And this is really useful just to show the definition of functions, just to kind of to have an idea how can we work with the methods or library. The next one is never, and never is when our function it doesn't only return nothing, but it's not possible to go to the return statement because it can throw an error, like in this case. And if this function an error, and from the other function we want to return this function code, it's the same thing as throw a new error. So in that case, the data type is going to be never. Or we have a function with the infinite loop, so it's going to never go to the return statement. Okay, so not even an undefined going to be returned, nothing. It's like infinite loop or throw an error. The last pair of data types is null and undefined, and this is the classical type in, I would say, from JavaScript. And null is used a lot of time when we want to specifically tell that this value is not yet have the object, let's say, if it's the person user. So user is not logged in, so the object of the user is null. It's null. Or we want to clear the person that currently logs in or logs out and assign a null value. However, undefined is automatically assumed that if we create an empty variable, by default is going to be undefined. This is the I would say simple definition that you want to know to pass an interview. At least if you want to go deep in this question, I strongly recommend to read such great book from Kylie Simpson, You Don't Know JavaScript, and this is kind of help you to proceed. But in this course, we will just like slightly touch the top of the iceberg, just to help you to proceed with your interview and just be happy, kind of. Okay, let's go to the editor. I will switch to editor, and let's just quickly go through each of these data types to show you these examples. So let's say we want to have a numbers, and this is really simple. We can say n type column number, and we can define like 5, or we can define number 2. We can say number with let keyword, and after that we can assign number 10. However, we cannot assign a string, and even by default the editor is gonna highlight this error saying that string is not assignable to type number, or even on the editor type check level. And also if you will run npm run build, the same error. Yeah, so this is the same error. Okay, what about the string, the boolean? Boolean is the same thing as so string, numbers, boolean, kind of it's really easy to define. Let's say we have boolean is deleted, and we say, okay, this is gonna be a boolean false. So it's deleted can have only boolean value. However, in that case, it doesn't even matter to define a type here, because automatically TypeScript assume, okay, this is the count, this is the initial value. I'm not gonna assign anything apart from the boolean, so this is the boolean type. But for the let, we'll say was removed, or is cleared. So in that case, we can assign a boolean data type, and is cleared can only have the boolean type. So it's not possible to assign something else like the number. It's gonna show me an error. The next one is string, and string app name, we do like app1, and it's gonna assume that this is a string, so it's not possible to assign something else. We can define if you want data type as well, string. Yeah, however, it's really useful to define type in a function. So if we have a function get name, and we will return, let's say we only need to return string, so it highlights already because for now it returns the void, it returns nothing. So we should define a string hi, and the error is not gone. Or if we don't want to return, we should do it with void. If it's just like a set name, and here we do some set execution. The array could be defined in two different ways. There is a, like, I would say for like a code style agreement, that if it's a primitive data type, which can be like a boolean, number, string, as an example, in that case we would define array as, we would first write the data type, like say string, and after that we would write a square brackets, and after that we can define that the array 1 is going to have different values, a1, a2, etc. And also there is a second way how can we do this. We can say that it's not a string, we can say that the array 2 is gonna be array, so we specifically would type the keyword array of string. So I would type in the triangular brackets that the data type for this array. However, there is a, I would say, the code style agreement that for primitive we would do like this, and for other types, like let's say array of the class instances, let's say we have a class person, so and we would say that we can say that the array users is going to be array, and in this brackets we can write array of person. Yeah, so this is the two ways how can we define arrays. This is the first one, which is used mostly to define a primitive, and this is the second one, to define an array of let's say objects, so non-primitive data types. Okay, the tuple is pretty easy to identify, easy to define. It can be, let's say API status. So we can say that is going to be enum of, let's say, success. After the equal sign we can write success and say failed, or anything that is matched to this value. And after that I can after I would get response from the backend, this response or the status of this response could be matched to this enum as data type. So it's a known type for us because let's say we worked with this backend team, we know the exact return type from this API, and we can say that the response type is going to be API status, and we have something like, I don't know, we have some kind of response here that actually coming from the API status equals response. So it's not possible to assign anything apart from this enum. So it's not possible for us to assign to response status the number, or even if you want to specifically copy this success, because it's not a string that we want to be here. It's only in enum value from API status enum. That's why we should only assign this data type. And this was the enum. And let's talk about tuple. The tuple it's a finite sequence of the values. Let's see, we have like return 1 and we can say that this is going to be the sequence of the boolean and the string, or it could be even more, or the second one is going to be API status. Okay, and we can define after that is going to be boolean is going to be true, and this second value is going to be API status success. So, and this return value can be returned from a function, right? So just to demonstrate, we have, let's say, function like get API status, and we can say that this is going to be the actual return value for this function. So we should definitely return something like that only. Yeah. So and if we will call this function get API status by even highlighting or hovering this function, okay, we can tell that this function returns the tuple of two values, boolean and the value of API status, which can be success or fail. So it's not possible to return anything else. It's not possible to return a string or any data type, because the return data type from this function does not match to this data type. Okay, so this is all for today. Today we just went through discussion of different data types, some basic ones, some familiar from JavaScript, but also some data types that are part of the TypeScript family. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, and see you in the next video.